But yeah, welcome. If you're brand new here to the channel, by the way, thank you for visiting. Thanks for being a part today. And I do this every Wednesday, 11 a.m. We do office hours for youth pastors and those who work with teenagers. And I try to answer 3 questions that I think are on youth pastors' minds. But I mean, they're actual questions. They're questions that people are asking. I'm not just making up questions. These are questions that youth pastors either send me, or I see quite a bit of it online, or any of those things. So I try to go ahead and, make sure that I'm answering questions that I think the general youth ministry public is asking about. And so if you have questions, you go ahead and leave them in the chat. And if you're watching live with me, you can leave them in the chat. If you are watching this later on, well, thank you. Thank you for watching and welcome in. And if you have questions for the next office hours, leave your comments down below. And so we're going to get started here in just a second. You may not know this, but I also have morning prayer on Wednesday mornings, Wednesdays, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You're welcome to join us for that. And if you're not a subscriber, by the way, go ahead and click that subscribe button down there. Do all the things, okay? All the things you're supposed to do on the YouTubes here. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you've not hit the like button, please go ahead and do that. And then don't forget, this is an important one. This click the bell notification thing. If you want to know when I'm going live, well, that's going to be, that bell thing is going to help you do that. It's going to let you know when I've gone live, so you won't miss an episode, and you won't miss your question getting answered. You won't miss things that I'm talking about that are going to be relative to you. So be sure to do all the things while you're here, please. Thank you so much. Please and thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into today's questions. And today, the first question is, how can I do a good job of researching a new church that I'm going to attend? This is from a youth pastor who's thinking about going to another church or interviewing at another church. And they're asking whether or not, what are some good principles or things that are appropriate as far as interviewing at that church, and how much should you, as the person that's applying, go in depth into the background of things. And so the answer to that is this. I think if you're applying to a church, especially if it is across the country, across the world, if it is far away from you, because once you move there, you're there. Nobody wants to turn around and go all the way back. Nobody wants to make that drive back if that's what happens. So I would suggest, if you're interviewing at a church, to do everything within your power to understand that church. The interview is going to be the interview. You're probably going to be, hopefully you get, an opportunity to, speak to some students. I remember one church that I interviewed for, they had student council actually interview me, which was great. And, you're going to have talks with the pastor, and you're going to get their best foot forward as you are going to give them your best foot forward. My guess is they've checked out your social media. You should check out their social media. I think a youth pastor should do as much work on your end to find out as much about the church you're going to, as much as the church, is doing the research on you. You should do as much research on them. It shouldn't be a one-sided deal, because you're going to commit however long, hopefully beyond the 2-year mark, traditional for many youth workers. If you want to stay there long term, well, I think you're going to have to do your homework. So I would suggest Googling the church, obviously. And just like any other, businesses have places like, what is it like to work at so-and-so, right? You can find employee testimonies. So I would check Google and see if there's any comments about the church that would raise any red flags for you. That could be anything from they treated me poorly to, and once again, those are one-sided stories, but you're just getting, if there's like a gajillion of them, well, that's one thing. If it's a few mixed in with a bunch of positives, well, then you kind of know that those are isolated incidences. So I would first Google the church. I would see if you can see their Facebook page, all their socials. I would check out their YouTube channel, their Twitter, their Instagram, all those things. Now, if they're, being a church and somebody's in charge of their social media, you're still going to get their best, foot forward type of thing, but you may see some things that, once again, you'd have questions about that you could bring up in your interview. It's, hey, I saw this on your social media. Hey, I saw this over here. Be careful of the dates on the social media post that you're looking at. Something that happened a year ago may not be true now. So, keep it relative to that. I think it's fair game too that you ask, and I would ask permission first to say, look, why did your last youth pastor leave? Is a fair question. And would it be okay if I talked to them? Because I think, and I had that happen with me. I interviewed and I said, hey, I'd love to talk to your previous youth pastor. Now, if your previous youth pastor leaves on good terms, that's usually not a problem, because usually they either, went to another church, they grew out of this church, whatever it is. And so you're going to get, that type of response of somebody leaving who left on good terms. But there's also, you're not going to get, if somebody leaves on bad terms, you're not going to get the same story, right? So I think it's fair, though, to do as much research for your family. This is not just, once again, if you're moving, it doesn't matter really if you're moving across the country, across the street, but you're taking this huge risk to move your family to a place. Everything's not going to be perfect. So, but it's fair to do as much research on your part. Ask all the hard questions you need to ask, whether it's about doctrine or social issues or any of those things. Ask the hard questions, but feel free to go ahead and say, can I not interview, but can I talk to your previous youth pastor? Would that be okay? And if they say no, just ask yourself why. Why would they tell you no? And if you already know who the youth pastor is, and you can find them online, they may have posted something about that. So I'm not saying you should necessarily get in touch with them if you don't feel right about that, but you can at least view social posts, things of that nature, that you can kind of see over time, was this a deteriorating situation, or did something just happen that kind of, resulted in them leaving? Once again, only you know you. So I'm encouraging you to do as much research as you can on the church. Once again, it's not going to be perfect, but do as much research as you can in the interview process, so that you're not being idealistic or romantic about it, or that you absolutely need the job. Because if you absolutely need the job, that's the bad place to be. Because if you say, I have to get this job, well, then you're going to just go in and it doesn't matter what they're going to say. You're going to say yes to them. But I think you need to set up your own parameters of saying, I need to ask these questions both in the interview time session with them, and I need to do all the background homework that I need to do that they're doing on me. I think it's only fair to do that. So if you're interviewing at a church, that is my advice to you.